Hey, welcome to our podcast, Inclusive Leadership. It's not black or white. You might have heard that Einstein once said that if he had an hour to solve a problem, he'd spend 55 minutes thinking about it and 5 minutes solving it. Well, that's what we're doing here today. Slowing down the action, getting up on the balcony, as systems change expert Ron Heifeitz says, and thinking out loud about the whole idea of inclusive leadership and what is really going on here. A bit of a root cause analysis, if you will. I'm Anna Poole, zooming in from Southwest Colorado, and I'm a master level executive coach. And for the past 20 years, I've worked with senior leaders of many of your favorite brands, as well as a few you probably love to hate. I'm here with Bede Draper, who lives in Sydney, Australia. Bede has received formal training in various forms of Western psychotherapy and is a lifelong student and teacher of the ethical principles that reside at the intersection of the world's major religions and philosophies. The first time I heard Bede speak, I was like, whoa, suddenly I could see myself and the human dilemma with so much clarity. So relax, listen in, and hopefully you'll get some value from listening to our podcast. Thanks. Hey, so a lot of people have been asking me, what do you mean that inclusive leadership is not black or white? Kind of implying like, are you nuts? So we have to start by understanding that racism, sexism, homophobia, and all kinds of tribalism, prejudice, and clannishness have been around for a very long time. We can see the symptoms of this everywhere around the world. And to really get insight into it, we have to pull up from the level of these individual symptoms to the level of systems. Because one thing is at the root of all these symptoms that manifest as indifference and cruelty towards other kinds of people. Martin Buber, a 20th century philosopher, was noted for his insight into the tendency of humans to unconsciously objectify others, particularly those who look or behave differently. I like to call this thingification, or the tendency to turn human beings from different demographics into things rather than people, and then to treat them anywhere on a spectrum that starts with profound indifference and moves into deeply embedded systems of oppression and even genocide. So we have to get out from under this process of thingification and understand and dismantle whatever is driving it. Like Einstein said, first, we have to really get what's going on and understand the role that we play in perpetuating the system. That's where I turn to my colleague, Bede. So, Bede, WTF, what is going on with this epidemic of thingification amongst the human species?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, this. When we just see so many diverse forms of people treating each other badly. And what we're looking at was we want to see a unifying principle which we can understand all of these diverse things, what we can boil it down at, because then if once we boil it down to one thing, we can first of all begin to see that this treating other people, instead of treating them as persons, we treat them as objects. We can see how every one of us is involved in this to a greater or lesser degree. And then this gives an opportunity to actually change what happens between ourselves and other people. Because you see, this is a universal problem. It's not restricted to race, gender. Everyone, to a greater or lesser degree, is included in the problem. And like everyone has to be included in the solution. But for me as an individual, what's important is, am I willing to examine my life and what happens between me and other people? What happens between myself and others? And what I do and say and how I do and say. And because if there's any transformation to work, what happens between people must undergo a change. And so we have two determining things. On one hand, we have myself relating to other people as objects, or myself as relating to other people as persons. And the unfortunate thing is, both things are involved. And I have to be willing to admit that the problem of the world, which is this people treating others as objects, exists in me and in
So
my way of
hold
relating.
on here, Bede. You're saying that I'm part of the problem here, that I'm objectifying people too?
Yes, we all are. And the thing is that we need to understand that the problem of the world, this problem of treating people as persons, exists in my life. And I have to resolve this world problem as it exists in me. Otherwise, I become irresponsible and full of virtue signaling, pointing the
Whoa.
finger at other people.
Okay, so we certainly are seeing a lot of virtue signaling right now and a lot of polarization. Everybody's pointing at everybody else and saying they're the problem, right? So if I hear you correctly, what you're saying is that if I learn how to stop treating other people as objects, I'm gonna help solve this problem. Did I get that right?
Yes, I'm going to solve the global problem as it exists in my life and in my way of relating. And this is,
Okay.
so therefore, this includes everybody.
Wow. Okay, Bede. Now you've got my interest. We're going to have to stop here, but I'd encourage our listeners to tune back in, keep an eye on this channel because there's a lot more to come on this topic. So thank you, Bede.
Okay, thanks, Anna.